Thank you. Good soul to all of you again. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Davi Souza. I am a current researcher at Habitat Marte. I'm also an electrical engineer student here in Brazil. And today I'll be presenting about the health center. And I always bring this idea that I'm not a professional or a specialist on this specific topic, but I believe we are dealing with humans. We will be dealing with humans on Mars, and so we need to know about our health, how to stay healthy, and how to overcome the main issues in the space flight. Today I'll be covering these specific topics related to the health center. I'll be talking about the design of my proposal of design, about technologies, also the management, some topics related to the management of the health center, protocols, and also some topics associated to the spin-offs. Some initial considerations as I started talking here. We have a lot of hazards that could that the astronauts, future astronauts will need to deal in future manned missions to Moon and Mars. And these topics will be associated to the health and its performance. And as you can see here, you have some risks related to the radiation, to the bone and muscle loss. And as you can see, we have many topics related to this specific topic related to the health of the astronauts. Also, when we are dealing with confining in extreme isolated environments, the psychological well-being of the astronauts will be also a very necessary topic to be covered. And so, to mitigate these hazards, we can have many technologies, countermeasures, preventions, and treatments that we need to apply. And I will be bringing here some ideas related to these mitigation topics and how to deal with these hazards on human spaceflight. Also, another picture, the image from NASA, as you can see here, the distance from Earth will affect on the psychological well-being of the astronauts. We need to have the idea that the health that we know about, the health in space that we know now, it's related to the topics that the research that has been already conducted, not only here on Earth, but also in the ISS. And maybe the health that we will be knowing in the future about Mars maybe will be different because we are the result of the interactions with the environment. So the behavior aspect of isolation, of being on Mars will be really necessary to be covered in this specific topic. And also some activities related to space medicine. We have the medical approach for psychological support, career training, physiological measures, and also some topics associated to engineering, related to the environmental control, life support systems. All of these need to be considered in the space medicine because, as I mentioned, we will be dealing with human beings, and so they need to keep healthy. Now, talking about internal design, this is a proposal of the master plan by Astronaut during mission 47. And as you can see here, I always bring the logistical approach of the location of the facility. And so if we have the health center, I believe that we need to stay more closer from the main station because this will be the place that we will have the most of the astronauts. And in case of any emergency, they need to go to the health center as soon as possible, and it will be necessary any activity conducted from a doctor, from a responsible of the health center. And also the idea of being near from the greenhouse, I will be considering here some topic related to phytotherapics, some medicines, some crops that will be cultivated to be used as medicine too is also a really interesting approach for the health center. Another picture, just to have an idea, it's the location. So the internal design, I'll be considering here an integration of 3 circular environments with 8 meters of diameter. We will have one main structure with 3 floors and 2 complementary ones with 2 floors. And in these environments, I'll be considering also a triage area, also an emergency area for clinical and surgical procedures. Also, I'm considering a Zen area designated for physical and mental well-being of the crew. This was an approach from Souza IP Jewel, which was a previous participant of Habitat Marte mission, and she has a team of analog astronauts that are related, that conduct some research on space medicine. Also, I'm considering the laboratories, a wet laboratory and a dry laboratory. I'll be talking more about them. And the basic needs, dormitory, the beds, kitchen, dining room, toilet, and also if we are considering the case of isolation for each facility, we have a food microproduction vertical module to support astronauts' food demand. So this was my proposal for the structure. We will be having a triage area with the laboratories and the dormitories, also a Zen area in the right side, in the left side, the emergency area. For the main area, I'm considering for the ground floor, we would have a circulation area for the astronauts, for the most part of the astronauts. And also when they will be arriving on the health center, they will be conducting the triage in this specific floor. And also they will be having X-ray rooms for radiology, radiotherapy, and radio diagnosis to see what are the needs of each astronaut, if necessary, to see if there is any something related to the bone, something related to organs, and so to make like a checkup. For the first floor, I'm considering the laboratories for molecular biology, which would be the wet laboratory and also the dry laboratory, which will be the bioinformatic lab. And also an area for 3D printing for organs and other medical tools. And in the last floor, the second floor, the area for basic needs, dormitory, kitchens, toilet, entertainment, and relaxation area. And for the other areas, for the emergency module, I'm considering the ICU area, the intensive care unity, and also an area for isolation of hospitalization of critical patients, and also some post-surgical process, an area for post-surgical procedures, and also for an area for central sterilized services to clean the most part of the material and surgical tools if necessary. And the Zen area will be an area for designated for integrative practice, on not only individual, but also group integrative practice. And also the food microproduction system will be in this specific area to perform also some research associated to the well-being, the mental well-being in the activities related to food practice. And also an area for physical checkups and behavioral therapies. Related to the technologies, I'm considering here a 3D printer, some basic tools for the labs, and also PPEs, microscope, weight and balance, biochemical analyzer, also some wearables for the astronauts. As you can see here in this picture, the proposal of the Astro Skin, which is a technology developed by the Canadian Space Agency that was implemented in the ISS. And as you can see here, they can monitor the blood pressure, the blood oxygen levels, and many other specific measurements that are necessary to analyze how is the health of the astronauts. Also, I'm considering a security cabin, a small greenhouse, this distiller, a laminar flow hood, and also a biological safety cabin for specific living organisms and other like other materials for medical manufacturing. And here I'm considering also a proposal by Professor Julio during mission 62. So we had this idea of the dashboard to be implemented in a future Mars habitat for each facility and also for the health center. And this dashboard would be responsible to have a specific tool to monitor the mental condition, the heart rate, calorie consumption, physical activities, and these other specific measurements, and also to provide periodic examinations, reports, and alerts if necessary related to the health of the astronauts. Some research to be generated in situ. As I mentioned, the medicines and phytotherapics with bacteria, fungi, and plants, and also some tools that could be 3D printed, the PPEs and other equipments, other medical devices. Also, there is some research, there are some research that they already are still under development related to 3D printing organs and bones, and also some surgical tools. Related to the management, the general aspects of this structure, I'm considering a complete structure provided with telemedicine equipment, robotics, and for assistance in 3D printers, a system for continuous monitoring of rooms and equipments to check this equipment status. A laboratory is designed for conduct research and innovation related to surgical performance, equipment manufacturing, and tests of new medicines. As I mentioned, when the astronauts will be arriving on Mars, maybe they will be facing, not maybe, they will be facing new things, new situations that they need to overcome. And so these laboratories need to be prepared for each new activity or something that could be happening to be overcome. Also, as another laboratory will be responsible for developing disease models, modeling response systems to psychological stress, nutrition, and cellular behavior. And as I mentioned before, the division of the laboratories. One is more related to molecular biology, to conduct studies, operational support related to gene expression, and bioinformatics, some research related to biotechnology and using computational techniques, and also analyzing data of specific living organisms and this stuff. Also, I'm considering the 3H area for fast clinical evaluation. If the patient will be arriving, this area will be delivering the astronauts for a specific for the specific procedure that will be needed to be carried, and check the vital signs and detect any case of specific criteria for hospitalization. The ICU would be an area for critical patients, for intensive care with the specialized team, and also in case of post-operative period. And the CCS would be an area for cleaning, conditioning, sterilization, and distribution of the general medical tools. And I'm considering here, as you can see in this picture by NASA, some technologies related to behavioral checkup and physical checkup of the astronauts. The positions, profiles, and duties. I'm considering here four specific profiles that can be switched by each astronaut, but I believe for the clinical doctor and head of the structure, they will be responsible for surgeries, supervising the protocols, monitor the calls between each facility if we are considering the case of isolation. So if there is any specific situation related to the health of the astronauts in the power station, the clinical doctor will be responsible to conduct any kind of meeting like us here. And so they will be giving some guidelines, specific guidelines, also monitoring the online dashboard with the astronauts' health status, and see what are the specific procedure that need to be carried. The radiologist nurse will be responsible for the triage and managing of the flow of the patients, check radiation levels, and conduct also a specific research related to the impact of radiation in the human body, monitor the checkups, and also accompany the surgeries. The biotechnologies will be responsible for the laboratories, also produce and test medicines, and also specific phytotherapics. I have knowledge in IT and handling the 3D printers, and conduct studies on viruses, bacteria, and other contaminants that may appear in the habitat, or maybe a kind of disease, a specific disease. And also I'm a specialist in human well-being. I'm considering here maybe that can be a nutritionist, maybe a physical, I don't know if this is the right word, it's like a personal training for the astronauts, not only related to the health, but related to the mental health, but also to the physical health, and also related to the performance of the astronauts. And as you can see here, we'll be responsible to monitor the nutritional levels and also the behavioral nutrition. As we already know, the food really impacts on our performance. We are what we eat. So if the astronauts have the minimum knowledge on what they are eating and what they are eating for, and what would be the outcomes that specific diet will be delivering to the astronauts. So, and also monitor of biomechanics and physical analysis to see how is the body of the astronauts. And for the astronaut training program, as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, I'm not a specialist on this topic, but if we are considering a whole crew on Mars, on Moon, we need to have this idea of intervention by a non-medical crew. Like I'm a student of electrical engineering, but it's necessary to have a minimum knowledge related to the health in case of any specific emergency or situation with other crewmates. So it's really useful and necessary to have this minimum knowledge to conduct any kind of procedure or any safety activity, any first instance activity. As I mentioned here, for the astronaut training program, some first instance courses and handling of first aid kits, basic understanding biosafety, and understand the basic medicines and know how they act in our bodies. And also another proposal made by me for the astronaut training program. I presented this research during the Space Habitat event. It's related to the training in resilience for the astronauts. I believe that resilience is a really necessary thing that need to be implemented during future manned missions. And here I'm proposing, just to be really quick, I'm proposing some ideas of training resilience, some activities and some tasks, and maybe more related to some procedures and guidelines associated to research area, work areas, social areas, and individual areas that will be providing resilience not only for one specific astronaut, but for the whole crew to improve and enhance the performance, the creativity, and to deal with new situations that the astronauts will be facing. Some videos, as you can see here, the first one is related to the 3D printing of organ 3D printing. Second one, it's the second and the third one, it's more related to first aid training. And the third one is a complete training, really complete, that will be that gives the main procedures related to first aid. And as I mentioned, related to the food, the last video, it's related how what we eat affects in our brain. The resource necessary for 1 week, I'm considering the capacity of 4 astronauts. And so the diet of each astronaut will be specific for each individual based on his biotype, his routines. I'm considering here a daily consumption of 2.1 kilograms by person, and for 1 week, an amount of 60 kilograms of food. This and also related to water, I'm considering 3 liters of water per person, and a weekly consumption of 84 liters of water. And it's really important also to mention that these are terrestrial patterns. We are considering based on what we already know about us, about our health here on Earth. So we consider that 3 liters of water is necessary for us here on Earth. Maybe on Mars, this will be different. Maybe the astronauts will be needing less water, or maybe less food, or maybe more. These are like a kind of research that we can conduct here already here on Earth, but maybe this will be changing in the future during the manned missions. The guidelines to be provided to other facilities, considering the idea of the dashboard, they are now in monitoring in the service dashboard to collect data on the health of the crew and to store and select specific information and also compare the checkups, the vital checkups and the vital signs of the wearables to see if everything is really okay, and also with the systems. And the data will be imported into the system, will be selected to have like a database with the main aspect, like if we have any kind of disease, any specific vital signs for a specific disease. It's really important to have this data and imported into the system to see, oh, okay, in that specific situation, we have this specific data for that specific astronaut. So it's really important to have these kind of considerations for future disease or future, like we have now the variation of the COVID. This is really important to know how this will be affecting on the body. And so also the dashboard will be also an area to provide the recipes and follow-up for simple treatment procedures. As I mentioned, the telemedicine with video calls and the intervention by a non-medical crew. Related to the protocols, some specific protocols are associated to checkups, radiological analysis, and constant cleaning of the structure, cares with the body, also physiological reports, and checking the validity of medicines, or the basic protocols of the facility. Considering here also a specific protocol for triage called SALT, triage method. It's a standardization for sort, assess, life-saving maneuvers, and treat. And as you can see here, is a kind of specific protocol to see how is the situation and determine the category of that specific situation. Like, as you can see here, to see the situation of breathing, in injuries, and other specific questions that need to be taken into account. So this is just like a model, and that can be applied in the future habitats on Mars. Also, protocols of safety, the use of PPEs like masks, gloves, and cap during surgeries, and also specific procedures that will be associated to radiation. It's necessary to have the protection also against radiation. So just to have an idea in that right picture, some different kind of PPEs for specific situations. As you can see, the entry into our at-risk area, 1 meter of patient high-risk area, and also an area for aerosol generating procedures. We have different kind of PPEs that need to be used, need to be also developed in the habitat, and the protocols of safety will be determining for each specific situation, each specific case that need to be used. Protocols for occupancy and entertainment. As I mentioned before, the integrative medicine related to the same model will be considered occupational practice more associated to the well-being, the self-care of the astronauts. As you can see in this right picture, we have the association of the conventional medicine, the self-care of the individual, and also complementary health and alternative medicines. I always like to bring the idea that as much solutions as we can use, they are always welcome. So as much as solutions that we can use, that we can implement in the future habitats, will be useful for the astronauts on Mars or Moon. And the integrative health will be one of these, if we considering the hazards, as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation. Also, I'm considering the rotation of positions according for the demand of each area or infrastructure, just to have an idea. Like if we doesn't have any activity related to surgical or emergency, so we can have like the head of the facility conducting another specific activities and doing this rotation of position. Like if there is no like if the radiologist is not necessary to conduct any kind of triage, so the radiologist maybe can be helping on the lab to conduct any specific research for associated to the radiation for their research topic, and to have new outcomes from the habitat, and also enable moments of rest after exhausting workloads. Just an example, the surgical procedures. And I'm considering here this kind of integrative and functional medicine, nutrition, and therapy, just to have an idea about what can be integrated when we are dealing with health. Related to protocols for food microproduction, I'm considering here also, this was a proposal made by me, Professor Julio. This is a kind of outcome from Habitat Marte missions, from the routines that we conduct there. We emerged with these protocols, and routines related to food production can be associated with the management of the system, the maintenance, recycling practices, harvesting and processing. We also had, we are having some considerations now related to the impact of these routines, these food routines on the mental well-being of the astronauts, considering the isolation aspect. And some activities are related to analysis, diagnosis, ensure the circularity, assure the fidelity of methodologies, also provide orientations and detect failures. And this will be more related to the food logistic. As I mentioned, we are considering the food microproduction in the case of isolation, to meet the food demand of the astronauts during this period of isolation. But if we have a normal situation in the habitat, maybe it's possible to use this module to cultivate specific specific phytotherapeutic, specific crops that can be used as medicine. Also, I'm considering here some cleaning and decontamination routines. If we are having that area, that the health center need to be a really clean area, so we can't have any specific like problem associated to bacteria or something like related to living organisms that could be affecting on the activities inside of the health center. This is really that's why it's really necessary to conduct these cleaning routines regularly. Reports related to storage with the to monitor the status, and also waste management, and protocols for 3D printing. I bring just to have an idea to produce a human tissue. These specific protocols also that can be used with bio ink, that can be produced with bio ink, plastic, fabrics, hydrogel. And also I have watched recently a video, a series on Netflix that I saw. It was really interesting, the kind of producing some tissues, some specific materials with the living organisms, like using a specific kind of bacteria to provide an environment to that bacteria like start to produce any kind of tissue. Like I saw for fiber, I saw it was really interesting, more related to bioarchitecture. So using the insects that produce that specific fiber, so to produce a tissue or a specific structure. So related to 3D printing, that can be also useful to have any kind of bacteria that can be used to as a raw material. And also some materials and tools for surgery and to be used in the laboratories, and as I mentioned before, the PPEs. Some spin-offs, I bring here one specific technology, the resin suite, that was a technology developed for the astronauts, and now they are using for medical support in rehabilitation practice. And also other technologies can be applied on studies on psychology of isolation, as we are facing in this pandemic time. Also the effects of radiation and study on organ production. Guidelines to be applied on daily life on Earth. So as all that I've mentioned before, if it can be useful for moon and on the moon, on Mars, it can be useful also here on Earth. So related to directions for social isolation, guidance on exercise, nutrition, and provide safety and health in region with limited access to medical facilities. So if we are considering an isolated area like a Martian habitat, in an extreme environment, if this technologies, these solutions can be useful to a place like this, can be also useful for specific regions on the globe that maybe it's not that the access is not that feasible. And if we consider the telemedicine, the 3D printing to produce medicines, so this is really necessary. And as you can see here, that idea of integrative and functional medical nutrition therapy, we can consider, we can integrate personalized nutrition care related to biomarkers, metabolic pathways, the systems, the physical signs, symptoms, and the food lifestyle and environment. This will be all integrated for the best outcome for the individuals and the astronauts. And the impacts on SDGs, as you can see here, I bring these 4 SDGs, but we can mention many others. I bring here the idea of the good health related to the collective well-being, also the education, where if we have the approach of more qualified medical teams and that idea of the intervention of a non-medical crew, this can be also like a kind of quality education that can be generated for many people. And also I'm considering here the handling of new generation technological equipments like 3D printing. Also the idea of the infrastructures, if we have structured healthcare unities with high-tech machinery. So this will be collaborating on pharmaceutical industry, also to develop low-cost medicines and improve the quality of these medicines. And to finish the idea of the public-private partnerships, the PPPs, in favor of more sustainable and accessible evolution in the health sector. So these are my references. Thank you very much for your attention. You can contact me by email. And it was a pleasure to be here presenting this research, this specific topic to you. Thank you.